Is football back? A lot of people on Twitter are going to try and tell you today that football is back. And I'm here to say football is not back. And you want to know how I know that? Because everyone that's saying this is the first or the last weekend without football for the next 6-7 months, well, all those people are going to be watching Netflix by the time the second half starts tonight. So no, football is not back. But we do have some training camp winners and losers to get to on today's show. One week of Falcons training camp is in the books, which means we have a list of winners and losers from Flowery Branch. We are noted for our winners and losers throughout the offseason, but when we get to training camp, it hits a little bit different than rookie minicamp, for example. So let's get into it with our first winner, and that is none other than Bijan Robinson. Our sweet prince has been everything as advertised through the first week of camp. The pads have come on, and Bijan has been terrific. There's really no other way to put it here. Bijan has displayed everything you are looking for in a top 10 selection for a running back. Elusiveness, athleticism, versatility. The guy looked like an NFL wide receiver going up against Falcons cornerbacks and breaking Troy Anderson's ankles. I think he's going to have what I've said for a while now, a Christian McCaffrey role as a pass catcher, but also peak Dalvin Cook in between the tackles. And dare I say, Adrian Peterson times Christian McCaffrey, this is the love child. That's how special Bijan is in my eyes, and that's why the Atlanta Falcons just could not pass on him in the first round. I know it's a little early to give out stat projections, and I never understand how fantasy football websites cook these up, but I took a swing at it, and I think he's going to get 1,000 rushing yards, receiving-wise, 684 yards, 14 touchdowns, 4.8 yards per reception. The guy is going to break out for a fantastic rookie year. The only reason why I don't have him rushing for more yards is it's a bit of a committee backfield with Tyler Algier and Cordero Patterson, and I don't think the Falcons are going to want to absolutely run Bijan into the ground as a rookie. They know Patterson's on the last year of his contract. They'll probably give him some goal line touches and whatnot, but he's going to be a no-doubter 1,000-yard rusher in his rookie season. And all-purpose yards, he's going to get close to 2,000 yards and get a boatload of touchdowns to go along with it. Now, my second winner from training camp is safety Jaylinn Hawkins. You can look at this as of one of two ways, whether this is good for Jaylinn Hawkins and the secondary, or this is more of a sign of bad quarterback play. What I can tell you is that Hawkins has been a ball hawk. No pun intended. He has, pun intended. He has constantly been making plays. The Falcons have three great safeties right now with Jesse Bates, Richie Grant, and the guy who was sort of the odd man out going into training camp, Jaylinn Hawkins. When you look at Atlanta's safety room, Jesse Bates, Richie Grant, Jaylinn Hawkins, I think are all pretty much locks to make the roster. I mean, especially Bates and Grant, but Hawkins is more of the, closer to the bubble than the first two names. But the 7th-round pick out of Alabama, Helms, he's also been making a lot of great plays, so I could definitely see him getting onto the 53-man roster as well. But who do you think the biggest winner from training camp has been so far? For me, it's Bijan. That's the only right answer. You can try and dig deep, and I respect those of you that do that. But for me, surface level, 10 feet below the ground, however deep you want to dig, you're going to find Bijan Robinson every single time when it comes to winners from Atlanta's training camp after week 1. My third and final winner-ish is Frank Darby. We talked about him on yesterday's episode, and he might not be a household name in Atlanta, and I don't know if he's going to become one, but I do think he's going to become a member of this 53-man roster. He has displayed an ability to get open down the field. He's been making some big-time plays, hauled in a 50-yard touchdown from Taylor Heineke on Wednesday, and the route running has not been elite from what I've heard and from what I've seen, but he continues to make plays, and he is in a spot where he is on the bubble to make this roster. London, Hollins, and Scotty Miller, I believe, are all locks to make this roster. I'll probably toss in Kadero Hodge as well. I'm just more confident with the first three than Hodge. But then you have Frank Darby, Penny Hart, and some of these other players pushing to make this roster, and Darby seems to have the edge when it comes to that second tier of wide receivers trying to take a last spot or two for what I think is going to be a 5-man wide receiver room in Atlanta. Now, we are talking all things Falcons football all year long, which is why you have to subscribe. Plus, for our own selfish reasons, we're 90 subs away from 13,000 subscribers. So if you are looking for a free Falcons YouTube channel, consider subscribing down below. So this is a bit of a puzzle, Desmond Ridder, and so far his play throughout training camp. And I'm going to play Switzerland, and you can call me a pussy for it, but I think he's kind of a winner and a loser. He has not been downright awful where it's already Taylor Heineke running with the first team offense. That's one polar extreme. But at the same time, Desmond Ridder has had his fair share of mistakes. And that happens in training camp, right? I think sometimes we forget that training camp is a spot where you're supposed to knock some of the rust off so that when September rolls around, you are polished and ready to go, and it doesn't take you that long to get back up to 100% game speed. But he's flashed, he's had some good moments, but he's also struggled. I'd be lying here, and I would look like a North Korean like propaganda mouthpiece if I said Desmond Ridder's been perfect. He has completed 100% of his passes for 100 touchdowns. Hasn't been that great, but it also has had some good moments sprinkled in. He's had some nice throws. I saw him make a nice throw to Kyle Pitts today, so that makes up for a bad throw to Kyle Pitts earlier this week. So for now, I'm going to have him right down stab in the middle as a winner and a loser through the first week of training camp. Moving on to the actual losers, this is Matt Hennessy, the left guard. He's not really a big loser, not for anything that he could control, but he's a loser because he is going to miss time with an injury, which is going to open the door for Matthew Bergeron to slide in and grab that starting left guard job. So Hennessy's not a loser because he's bad at his job. Unfortunately, we know in the NFL, if you give someone else an opportunity to take your job and they do well, the NFL is not always going to be so kind and give it back to you once you are healthy. Right now, Atlanta's depth chart looks like this. You've got Matthews, Bergeron, Dahlman, Lindstrom, and McGarry. I'm very curious to see what Bergeron does with this opportunity. So from what I've heard so far, the defensive line has played very well for the Falcons, and that's good to hear because we know how dominant this offensive line can be. But let's see if Hennessy is ready to roll for that first preseason game. And if it is Bergeron, I'm curious to see how many snaps he get, right? How many drives, how many series does he get? And we might see him kind of grab that job by the reins and never give it back to Hennessy. So who do you think starts week 1? I know we're talking nitty-gritty here, but it's always fun to talk shop with Falcons fans. Matthew Bergeron, the rookie out of Syracuse, or the veteran Matt Hennessy. Type MB for Bergeron, type MH for Hennessy. Shoot your shot down in the comment section. Second loser we're going to get to is wide receiver Penny Hart. Remember earlier when I was talking about that second tier of wide receivers? Well, Penny Hart is sort of in the back of that second tier of wide receivers. He just hasn't flashed. He just hasn't made a big play. And unfortunately, training camp is long but also short at the same time, meaning you're going to start getting roster cuts soon, especially with the first preseason game being just over a week away next Friday. He's going to have to showcase and display his abilities to this coaching staff going into that first preseason game as someone to give more runs with the first team offense so that he can work with the best and produce the best type of highlights to ensure himself a spot on the 53-man roster. And to add on to that, he also has to show some special teams value, right? If you're not going to be a top 3 wide receiver, you better be doing something for this team because you're not taking wide receivers 4, 5, and 6 to sit on the bench all day. You got to have some special teams value as well. And so Penny Hart definitely needs to showcase this, whether it's in the return game or some other element to special teams. He has to show that he has a value to this team if it's not on the field for offense. My guess is Penny Hart does not make this roster. I know this is not a big-time name for the Falcons, but hey, this is what training camp is all about. We know that Drake London and Matt Collins are going to make the roster. What we want to discover is the guys that are going to be the first ones to step up if an injury occurs, how good are they going to be? And you can reference that by watching training camp and preseason coverage. Third loser now, Darren Hall, the cornerback. So Hall, unfortunately, has been a part of a really good secondary through the first week of camp, but he has not been the driving force as to why they have been very successful through the first week of camp. He has struggled in one-on-ones. He's fallen down the cornerback depth chart. You're seeing some other guys sort of take his spot a little bit in the cornerback room. Armstrong has played very well. D. Alford has played very well as well. Clark Phillips, the rookie, I think is going to have a good role on this team. Mike Hughes also is being slept on, by myself included. So for that reason, I've got Hall towards the bottom of the cornerback depth chart, and I think he's in danger of not making the 53-man roster. So who do you think the Falcons' biggest loser is? Is it one of those three guys that we just went over? Am I omitting someone that is, a bigger loser than these three guys? Let me know in the comment section. To wrap it up, we've got a very fun draft that I am looking forward to, and I can't say the same for producer Roley, but because some people believe that football is back today, it's not. We're going to do a football returning draft. The best things about football being back. Roley, do you want to say anything before we get to the 1-1? No. Roley forgot that I had the 1-1 yesterday, so he gave it to me today, and I wasn't going to, turn it down because Red Zone was staring at me right in the face. And
Cheater.
It's Scott Hansen. He's beautiful. He's an American icon. He should be the next president. Scott Hansen, Red Zone, the no doubt 1-1 pick. 7 hours of commercial-free football starting right now.
I'll ask you guys this as the viewers. If PD knew that he had the 1-1 yesterday, and I said, you pick first today, and he openly neglected to say, oh, no, I had it yesterday and was part of the honor system and stole the number 1 pick, one can argue it's a cheater move, and you guys should just vote for me to win regardless. But anyway, my pick is fantasy football. I love fantasy football. It's my favorite part of the season every year.
Fantasy football's great. No one gives a shit about your fantasy team. Tailgate is my next selection as a Tennessee alum. Nothing better than the Vol Navy and tailgating at G10 parking lot. So tailgates, it's the best part about football in the fall.
Sunday football, though, when you get to sit on the couch from 1 o'clock p.m. if you're on the East Coast, and you don't leave the couch other than to grab food until 11:30 when the Sunday night game is over. What do we call it?
Football heads?
Pigskin heads?
Pigskin heads, yeah.
Pigskin heads. We like to sit on the couch and spend those 10 hours. It's nice and relaxing, too.
There's nothing better than that first, go-around of tricking your mom or, your girlfriend or wife when you're watching Red Zone. Next commercial, I'll go take the trash out. You don't even know. All right, my third selection, B-Dubs. Rolly and I have a tradition. We go to B-Dubs every single Thursday night for Thursday Night Football, and our local B-Dubs is a bit of a zoo. I think everyone's B-Dubs is a bit of a zoo, actually. The service, you know what you're getting into. The wings are still good, but B-Dubs, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happens to B-Dubs after the Super Bowl, before March Madness, and then after March Madness and before NFL. I think it just goes underground. It's like a cockroach.
Our B-Dubs is so special. One day, the air conditioning can be broken. The next day, the bathrooms are clogged. Our B-Dubs holds a very special place in my heart. But my selection is one that PD said was not good. I disagree. It's watching with the fellas. Is there anything better than football coming back in the fall and just bringing you and the boys together on Saturdays, on Sundays, Thursdays, and Mondays to watch some pigskin together? Nothing better.
My final selection, I went with Lee Corso. The more senile, the better. There is just something else about Lee Corso on college game day every Saturday morning, screaming out random shit as Herbstreit tries to lean over and say, Lee, pipe it down over there, buddy. You can't just scream, give me that head. So Lee Corso, he's an absolute institution. I love the man. He is one of my favorite parts about the fall.
And I went with kind of a funny/joking pick here at the end, and it's Monday morning water cooler talk. Is it? I think it's pretty funny when you don't get the people that know football, but when it comes back in September and those people just come out of the woodworks, and you go to fill up your water or get some coffee in the morning on Monday at work, and that random dude who doesn't know ball comes up to you and starts talking some football, I think it's an awesome part of the season. I absolutely love it.
And then just to add on to that one guy, there's always someone who's doing their first ever fantasy football season, and they come up to you on Friday before you go out for the weekend. They're like, hey, quick question. Do you think I should start Jamar Chase? And you're like, yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. I think you should start Justin Jefferson over Tyler Boyd. I would also recommend that. So that's going to do it for us on today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. See everyone later.